from our studios on MDI Road, I am Tenengite, and here are the headlines. The visiting Archbishop of Dakar calls for respect and religious tolerance. Civilians in the Gambia hold an emotional prayer for the victims of Monday's deadly mudslide in Freetown. As Tunisia prepares to hold its municipal elections, many Tunisians remain disinterested in the coming polls. And critics say the proliferation of biased online news sites could hinder an expanding media industry. Well, now viewers, this and more coming ahead. Okay, I am Tenengite. And now the news in details. The Archbishop of Dakar, Reverend Father Benjamin Jai, on Wednesday paid a call on His Excellency President Adama Barrow at Fajara. The Catholic Archbishop held discussions with the President and prayed for continued peace and stability in the Senegambia sub-region. Father Jai said he was greatly impressed by President Barrow's commitment to religious tolerance, with the Gambia universally acclaimed for. He said the President has assured him of his support to all religious denominations in the country. Well, now to this. The Department of Water Resources, in collaboration with the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, Wednesday donated GRTS and to 6 community radio stations across the country,
including radio transmitters, internet gadgets, recorders, laptops, desktops were handed over to the Director General of GRTS. The Minister of Fisheries and Water Resources, James Gomez, stressed the importance of supporting the media to communicate issues relating to weather and climate change to the public.
We have been taking action for the last 20 years, but there is still more to be done. And that is why we are encouraged when we have a partner like the UNDP that will give us such presence and help to build our capacity.
To weather and climate change to the public.
We have been taking action for the last 20 years, but there is still more to be done. And that is why we are encouraged when we have a partner like the UNDP that will give us such presence and help to build our capacity that our own people can deal with our own issues.
Minister Gomez thanked the United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, for the donation and urged the beneficiaries to use the items judiciously. The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Fisheries, Dr. Bamba Banja, hoped the radio transmitters would enhance GRTS nationwide coverage for the dissemination of climate change early warning information.
Improvements are urgently needed to effectively and efficiently communicate climate information from the provider at the Central Focus Office at the Yundum International Airport to the most vulnerable grassroots levels users and to all other users, GEF implementing agencies of the Early Warning Project. For providing the technical support to the GRTS, the 6 community radios, NDMA, that is the National Disaster Management Agency, and Departments of Parks and Wildlife Management.
The United Nations country representative Ade Mamayani Lekoji reaffirmed the UN system's commitment to supporting the Gambia's development aspiration.
UNDP and UNEP, as implementing partner of the Global Environment Fund, have been supporting the government of the Gambia to access funds from the Least Development Country Fund under the UNFCCC. These funds help to address the country's capacity building needs related to the development of an operational climate early warning system.
The Director General GRTS, Mr. Ibrahim Silla, and the Manager Bansang Radio, Maimuna Bande, both thanked the donors for the gesture. Mr. Silla assured them that the materials will be put into good use.
I want to assure you on behalf of the various beneficiaries present here that this equipment given to us will help us in disseminating climate change information and climatic variations to our various audiences, especially those in rural areas, so that they can adopt or they can adapt effectively to climatic variations in this country. And it will also help us in helping people to adapt in terms of their production capabilities, so that from now on food security can be enhanced and assured.
Reporting for GRTS News, I am Khadija Tujuara.
One of the top organizers of the Zero Hunger campaign has stressed the importance of food security. Speaking in an exclusive interview with GRTS's Joro Jalo ahead of the launch of the program this Thursday, Musa Menga reaffirmed the World Food Programme's commitment to supporting the Gambia achieve national food security. Looks like that story will be coming later on in the news. For now, move to our next report. The Inspector General of Police warns general public to desist from erecting tires, pegs and placing stones on public roads to avoid vehicles from coming close to their fences. A news release from the police says the behavior is causing obstruction and is not in line with Traffic and National Road Authority Acts. The cooperation of the public is highly solicited. Now, the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education is developing a strategy on second chance education for children who either did not enroll or discontinued their schooling due to one reason or the other. Samuel Ba attended the opening ceremony and he prepared this news report.
The meeting today is creating opportunity for all these important stakeholders to have first-hand information and interaction with the consultant. MOPSI has decided, as part of our drive to increase quality and access, to come up with a strategy to create second chance education.
With improved access as one of its guiding principles, the open education strategy is targeted at individuals who never attended school or left school before completing the levels they were enrolled at.
Notwithstanding all this intervention, we still have some of our children who are in the streets not going to school. And that is why we are coming up with this program called Second Chance Education. Either they were in school, dropped out, or they were never in school. These are the children now we are targeting. And that is why we are here today, to pave the way. How can we go about? What strategies do we need to employ so that at the end of the day, those children, we can get them from those corners where they are and bring them back to school.
Research shows acute cases of out-of-school children in the Central River region.
But now we are trying to formalize it by coming with what we call the second chance education. So that children who are not in school or who were in school and dropped out will be given the chance to come back to school.
Partners of the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education called it a brilliant initiative to ensure out-of-school children and dropouts catch up.
Now, if we have over 395,050 students out of school, and then we are here to the we ask how to get them into the school system, I think that's a very laudable initiative.
Frances Ferreira is the World Bank consultant on second chance education. The consultative forum will lead to a national strategy that will facilitate children and young people to return to education. Samuel Bach, GRTS.
The Gambia Competition and Consumer Protection Commission has concluded a training for stakeholders in service production. The program hosted at the National Assembly in Banjul was held on the theme Consumer Protection Issues in the Telecom and Financial Sector. Ibrahim Asane has more in this report.
Delivering her keynote address, the Minister of Trade and Employment noted that one of the policy objectives of her ministry is to create a competitive business environment and make consumers satisfied with services provided to them.
One of the policy objectives of MOTI, that is trade industry is to create a competitive business environment where unfettered competition reigns and the consumer is king. To this end, the GCCPC was established in 2009 under the Competition Act 2007, and in 2014 it has an added mandate to administer the Consumer Protection Act of 2014, which prompted the name change from the Gambia Competition Commission to the Gambia Competition and Consumer Protection Commission.
She noted that GCCPC's primary objectives is to promote and maintain competition in the Gambia by addressing anti-competitive practices.
The GCCPC has its primary objectives to promote and maintain competition in the Gambia by curbing anti-competitive practices, to protect consumers from unfair and misleading market practices, and to jointly regulate the importation, distribution, and retailing of essential commodities, and to ensure their availability at fair and reasonable prices in the Gambia.
Madam Toure urged PIRA, Central Bank of the Gambia, and GCCPC to always endeavor to create a right balance for a level field playing for business to compete fairly and safeguard the right of consumers. The Executive Secretary, GCCPC, Amadou Cisse, said his institution advocates for satisfaction for consumers and service providers.
Mandated by the Competition Act 2007 and the Consumer Protection Act 2014, the Commission has been working tirelessly with and through institutions such as PIRA, Central Bank, to ensure that the provisions of this Act are not violated and that consumers get value for money at all times.
In her closing remark, Fatima Sonko said consumer protection is a business for all and sundry. She urged participants to share the knowledge gained from the training. The Gambia Competition and Consumer Protection Commission is playing host to a series of training sessions for stakeholders in service production in the implementation process of the Consumer Protection Act 2014. Ibrahima Nsane, GRTS News.
The Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces Wednesday paid a courtesy call on the Director General of GRTS. Lieutenant General Masane Kinte and Mr. Ibrahim Silla discussed ways of cementing relations with the national broadcaster. Famarakanya tells us more in this report.
Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Masane Kinte, to the Gambia Radio and Television Services is a step to reinforce the long-standing friendship between the two institutions. A strong media outreach would enable the Gambia Armed Forces respond well to the Gambia's new democratic needs. Many Gambians had lost confidence in the armed forces due to the difficult civil military relations during the past government. The visit to the national broadcaster is another step by Lieutenant General Kinte to regain public trust and confidence in the military.
The GRTS has been very, very instrumental in the training and mentoring of some of our young soldiers and officers from the armed forces, who have undergone various training, from videography to editing to reporting and so on and so forth. We need GRTS as a great partner in our capacity.
The Director General of the Gambia Radio and Television Services, Ibrahim Silla, said updating Gambians about security issues is one of the mandates of GRTS.
We want to platform to any of the security services. The Gambia Armed Forces are ready, and the various penalties that we have, we must really open up the platform to you and your men and women so that they can come and use it, sensitize the public, interact with it, as part of efforts to strengthen the military-civilian cooperation.
CDS Kinte and delegation had the opportunity to various units of the Gambia Radio and Television Services, from the News and Current Affairs Department to the Technical Services. For the past 2 decades, relations between the and the public have not been the best. General Kinte and his High Command are working very hard to reverse this and create a military that puts Gambians first and serves their interest. Reporting for GRTS News, I am Famarakani.
Barcelonians on Wednesday gathered in Bijilo at their embassy to pray for the victims of Monday's mudslide in Freetown, in which over 400 people died. Njai was there, and this is her report.
In the Gambia, Wednesday opened a condolence book for victims of Monday's deadly mudslides, which hit the outskirts of the capital, Freetown. Over 400 people were killed and many more injured or are missing.
It's a sad incident that occurred on the 14th, in which we lost our compatriots, over 300 of them, and more, in fact, more names are to come, more numbers are to come, because the real total is not yet known. So we as an embassy, in our own little way, we are just like remembering them. It's just like a remembrance for us. It's just like an eye-opener for us, this type of activities that has happened.
Words of condolence and prayers poured in from speaker after speaker as they paid their last respects to the victims.
At this time that we are having tears in our eyes and with a heavy heart, I pray that the Almighty God will console us. I pray that such calamity will not befall us again.
Those prayers were led by Ambassador Suleiman Darami, expressing heartfelt condolence to Sierra Leoneans who are directly or indirectly affected by Monday's mudslides. He thanked the Gambia government for their support at this difficult moment.
On behalf of my humble self, my staff, and all Sierra Leoneans in this country, our very sincere thanks and appreciation to all the Gambians, particularly members of the government who have called in, who have sent messages, who have sent letters to sympathize with us during this tragic moment. We do appreciate what they've done, and we also very much look forward.
Monday's natural disaster in Freetown was one of the worst to hit Sierra Leone in recent memory. Apart from the loss of lives, thousands more have been made homeless by the mudslides. Ominjai, GRTS.
One of the top organizers of the Zero Hunger campaign has stressed the importance of food security. Speaking in an exclusive interview with GRTS's Yor Jalo ahead of the launch of the program this Thursday, Musa Menga reaffirmed the World Food Programme's commitment to supporting the Gambia in achieving national food security. Here's an excerpt of that interview.
Reduce malnutrition, double agricultural production of smallholder, and to render food systems more sustainable. Now, the SDG 2, as it is called, is at the core of the Sustainable Development Goals. Because if a country reaches zero hunger, it means that country can ensure access to nutritious food for the vulnerable populations. It also means that food production will increase in a very sustainable and resilient way, and that malnutrition in all its various forms can be tackled, and these include health and sanitation. The objectives of this exercise, the Zero Hunger Strategy Review here in the Gambia, is one, to have a review of all the current policies, programs, and activities that are going on in the country, to look at to identify the actual status of food and nutrition security in the country. The second is to look at or try to identify the gaps that are, inherent in the policies, programs, and activities, and also the stumbling blocks, the hurdles that we need to overcome if we are to arrive at zero hunger. We'll also be proposing at the end of this review actionable approaches, which will be captured in some sort of a roadmap that will help the government in its programming for the next 12, 13 years to come.
Now, Ms. Menga, the Gambia will launch the Zero Hunger Strategy Review tomorrow. What is the expected outcome of the launch?
In the process of doing the review, there were two structures that were identified to support the process. That was the setting up of a technical team and an advisory board. The technical team would be made up of technicians, or subject matter specialists that are in the ministries, departments, and agencies, in the private sector, but also civil society. And they would work with the research team, which are a group of 5 independent researchers that I had to review whatever we come up with and then make these recommendations to the advisory board. Now, the advisory board is comprised of the decision makers, the ministers, the representatives of diplomatic and consular corps, the private sector, civil society, etc., etc. And they would review whatever we, the technicians, propose to them, have it approved, and then give us the green lights to proceed. So tomorrow's launching ceremony is the inaugural meeting of the advisory board. So there will be 3 things that will be happening. The board members will be inaugurated by the vice president, who is presiding over the ceremony. Then there's an inception report that we developed, which will be adopted formally, and then the process will be officially launched.
Viewers, Musa Benga, they are speaking to GRTS's General Jalo ahead of tomorrow's luncheon. With that, viewers, will take a break. When we return, the news continues right here. Do stay with us. Welcome back, and now to news from beyond our borders. A social enterprise in Nigeria is using digital media platforms to promote political dialogue. Last month, Facebook reported there were nearly 16 million users in Nigeria, and one blog has become popular among those who want to air their views on the political climate. However, critics have warned that the biased information provided on these sites could hinder an expanding media industry. Sophie Edengo reports from Nigeria.
Blossom Ozurumba is the founder of a popular blog based here in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. The blog promotes itself as a source of political news and has nearly 20,000 visits per month. Ozurumba says gaining the trust of the public is key in keeping high-traffic site.
If they come here, there is some genuineness, there's some authenticity or credibility in how you go about pushing that.
Ozurumba is part of a growing number of social savvy influencers reaching the masses online. Recent social activism at this tech hub saw of a campaign to lower the age of persons running for a political office. These social platforms are also spawning a new group of entrepreneurs. Top sites like Linda Ikeji boast a following of nearly 1 million people and draw lucrative private placement ads. An Africa Mobile Trend report shows nearly 50% of Nigerians are able to access mobile internet connectivity, although some critics say many online content providers struggle in reporting factual information.
A lot of bloggers
have an agenda, whether political agenda or otherwise. So a lot of times readers don't even perceive the angle of that story. So a lot of times readers don't even perceive the angle of that story.
We asked average Nigerians if access to online information had proven beneficial.
I prefer to use social media to get news because always when I'm at work, my phone always be with me, and then it's very easy and very fastest to get through social media to get the news, whatever I need.
I prefer using media as television. I prefer using television. Why? Because I know normally by 9 o'clock I set up my television to make sure that I listen to the news, not the one of media. Because media, some people will just come and post anything or that you don't even expect or something that is not even called for.
I prefer getting my news directly from television than social media, because I believe that what is coming from social media is not authentic as what I see and hear from television.
Bloggers like Blossom Osurumba say the new media industry is an untapped opportunity and will continue to promote dialogue amongst diverse groups represented in Nigeria. Sophia Bengo, CGTN, Abuja, Nigeria.
Social media is without doubt a powerful tool. And with that, viewers, we'll come to the end of this newscast. But before we take leave of you, our headlines once more. The visiting Archbishop of Dakar has called for respect and religious tolerance. Sierra Leoneans in the Gambia have prayed for the victims of Monday's deadly mudslides in Freetown. As Tunisia prepares to hold its municipal elections, many Tunisians remain disinterested in the coming polls. And critics say the proliferation of biased online news sites in Nigeria could hinder an expanding media industry. Well, viewers, that was all in this edition of the news. Thanks for the place of your company. I am Tinenjite and